welcome to Foster Friday Live. We are so glad that you are here, and we are thrilled to have Kim from the South Carolina Youth Advocate Program with us today. SCIAP, which most people call it, right, is a therapeutic foster care licensing agency and supports families that are approved as therapeutic foster homes. So therapeutic foster care is often misunderstood. I know that I have lots of questions, so I'm really excited to dive into this today. So would you mind just, Kim, introduce yourself, and then as you join us, make sure you say, hey, introduce yourselves, and let us know that you're here. If you have questions, you probably will. Please ask, and we will do our best to answer those. We've already collected some questions from our Facebook page. So.
Yeah, so I'm Kim Young. I work with South Carolina Youth Advocate Program. We are a statewide agency, and so we license therapeutic foster homes. We also do in-home services and community-based services as well. I am a foster parent myself, so I have 2 kids with me right now in therapeutic foster care. My husband and I, we have been foster parents for 6 years, and we've had 11 kids in our home, some therapeutic, some not, and so I really feel like, you know, to kind of have the benefit of being in this professionally, but also personally, I really get to kind of see what it looks like at home.
Well, and that's why I appreciate you being here. And I think you guys are going to love Kim, because you can talk to us about the professional side, kind of how does this work logistically? What does SCIAP do? But also, what does this realistically look like as a family with this in your home every day? Because I think that understanding both sides just gives us such a better perspective of the reality of not only how it works, but what does this actually look like in your home?
Yeah, because when a family comes to us, they're very excited, but they're also nervous. They're skeptical. So this is a big decision for my family. And so I love being able to talk to them. And it's different to go and say, okay, I'm a licensing coordinator and this is what I do, but to actually be able to talk to them personally and say, okay, you've got this, you can do this, the kids need us, and kind of tell them some real life stories. Really helps them feel at ease.
So tell us, what is therapeutic foster care? So a lot of our audience, hey Stacy, we're so glad you're here, and Stacy is a SCIAP family. So
hi, Stacy.
You know, a lot of our families are already fostering, but they're fostering as standard or regular families. And then some might be prospective foster families. So trying to figure out, you know, if they do enter foster care, where to start. So can you just tell us about therapeutic foster care and maybe what is the difference?
Yes, I know. And so there are a lot of misunderstandings about therapeutic foster care. The word therapeutic kind of sounds scary. It sounds big. It sounds intimidating. So oftentimes in our office, we say that is, you know, sometimes when we say we're a therapeutic foster care agency, sometimes we get some hesitancy. So therapeutic foster care, the kids come into care the same way. They've been through the same traumas, the same abuse and neglect. But sometimes before they come into care, whether it be from their family or a DSS worker, they may see that there may be some extra needs, whether that be behaviorally, medically, emotionally. So they may place them in therapeutic foster care. Sometimes also when children are placed in care and start showing some of those behaviors or those needs, an assessment can be done here in our office that would make them or deem them therapeutic, to try to place them in that home, because therapeutic foster parents are trained and equipped to deal with some of those higher needs.
So a child who comes into therapeutic care, it sounds like maybe one of 2 ways. Needs have been identified at the time they've come into care. Or they've maybe been in a regular home, and during that time, some assessment has been done, or some needs have been recognized, and they could either be moved to a therapeutic home, or like you said, that family might choose to become a therapeutic family.
Absolutely. And because I know, many of you guys that are watching that are regular foster parents, we've all been in that situation where we have a child placed in our home and the trauma becomes very real, and we start seeing some behaviors. And so just because a child is placed in a regular foster home sometimes doesn't mean that there's not some extra needs. So one of the benefits of therapeutic foster care is to help support that family to get them the services that they need. So it's really the same kids, it's just kind of where they are in the process.
Right. So you told us a little bit about these kids, who they are or how they get to therapeutic foster care. So can you tell us a little bit more about their needs? You mentioned that might be kind of in a variety of needs, but what does that really look like? What does that really mean?
I know, and I think
I imagine medically fragile kids, you know, who, and I just have no idea how I would handle that because I'm not a nurse, I'm not a doctor. So that's what I see in my head from my limited knowledge.
Yes, and that's very common. A lot of times when you say therapeutic foster care, people may, envision a handicapped child or a child who, can't attend regular school or, has no social skills at all. But the truth is that our kids are a lot of the same kids that are in regular foster care. But sometimes, just like as adults, trauma and abuse and hard days can all affect us all differently. So sometimes our kids coming in just have a little bit extra to work through. And so they just need that a little bit extra support. But at the end of the day, they're the same kids. And so in therapeutic foster care, they are given, there's kind of different categories, and then there's also different levels. So we do have medically fragile children from infants on up. We do have special needs children, so that's like children with maybe autism or Down syndrome with a condition that maybe will be a lifelong condition. And then we have children that are in so level 1, 2, or 3. And those are going to be basically depending on what the foster parent is going to need to provide for the child. So level 1 children, they may have a therapy a week or bi-weekly. Sometimes we see ADHD, or they may just have a little bit of, oppositional behaviors like a lot of kids have, right? And so in level 2, maybe they have 2 therapies a week. And so it kind of builds on that. So there's a wide variety. And so it's not all medically fragile or special needs, but really a lot of the same kids that we see every day.
So a family might choose their level.
Right.
Can they also choose their category? Like, are there families that are just medically fragile, or, we'll take someone who's in therapeutic care for behaviors, but not medical needs? Or
yeah, so what we do through the licensing process, and that's a really big part of one of the things I do in initial licensing, is we walk through the process with the family, and we look at what does their daily routine look like. Can they handle 2 therapies a week? Are they a working parent? Do they stay at home? Most of our parents are working parents.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. I would say probably 90% of them.
So it's not a requirement for one parent to stay home?
Not. No, absolutely not. Okay. And so we do have, I lost my train of thought.
Well, you have another shout out from the Longs. Jason Long says, SkyApp
Justin.
support has been truly unbelievable.
Oh, thank you. They're a precious family. Yes. They're in celebration mode because adoption's coming. So
that's
congratulations.
Awesome. Yes. Congratulations to Stacey and Justin. That's awesome.
Yes. But really the children are the same. A family can, tell us what they're comfortable with. We have some families that, have been nurses previously. So we know going in, they say we love medically fragile kids. Like that's our expertise. So we love to pair those children. But then we have a lot of families, me included, who, my husband and I, we work full time, and the tubes and the all those things, that's intimidating to myself, and so and a lot of other people, so that wouldn't be a fit. And so we're able to assess, and the family's able to assess, and we come to an agreement.
Any child
absolutely before, because we never want to set a child up to go into a home that won't be a success.
With any foster care
absolutely.
situation, of course.
Yeah.
So talk to us about, you've kind of told us a little bit already, but who makes a great therapeutic foster family? Who are, what's the family dynamic? What, how much time do they have available?
Sure.
What, experiences or skills do they have that make them a good fit for therapeutic?
Sure. So a lot of our foster parents, it's a lot of the same qualities as a regular foster parent. Obviously someone who has the space, the time, again, you can work full time, have a busy schedule. Most of our families are extremely busy. But I think the biggest quality is to be able to look at a child and see their potential, and really look past the trauma, because we're really a big believer here at SkyApp that a child, they don't know how to tell you they're grieving, they show you their grief. Right. And so that is so common in therapeutic foster care. And so just to be able to see their potential and really stick with the kids. But we are an all-inclusive agency, so you don't have to be married. You can be in a domestic partnership. You don't have to own your home. You can rent. You can be a single parent. We have a lot of single foster parents that are therapeutic parents. And so really, as long as you have that love and acceptance and that desire to care for a child, you can be.
But it sounds like maybe someone who had experience with nursing or experience with teaching special education, those might benefit them, but not necessarily required.
Not required at all.
Because you can choose those levels and kind of agree on what type of child.
Yes, and we have ongoing training as well here at SkyApp. So we do different trainings throughout the year on specific diagnoses. If you get a child that you're struggling with meeting their needs, we have a treatment coordinator that is assigned to the child that comes out monthly. And so they'll help make sure if there's trainings that you need or do any kind of one-on-one discussions to help you better understand the child. Because at the end of the day, we want to give you everything possible so that way that child can stay where they're stable and not have to move repeatedly.
Yeah, and I think that it's not about the money. I mean, you can't get into foster care for the money, but the stipend in therapeutic foster care is different for families than with standard foster care. So a lot of people don't know that foster parents do get compensated or reimbursed in some ways for the care they're providing for basic necessities. So in standard foster care, there is a set board rate that every standard foster family gets per day, per child, and that's set by the state. And that's regardless of if you're licensed through DSS or if you're licensed through a therapeutic, a private licensing agency. With therapeutic foster care, that's different. Can you tell us a little bit about the stipend?
Sure. Yeah, so it is different. One of the things that's different in therapeutic foster care is that we are funded primarily by Medicaid. So we work very closely with Medicaid, and that's where some of our additional trainings and stuff come in as well. But with that, we do have a higher board rate to help cover and offset those expenses of extra gas mileage to take them to therapy. If you have to go to more parent-teacher conferences and take time off work, things like that. So sometimes there are some additional expenses in therapeutic foster care, and so realistically, it just makes sense for that rate to be a little bit higher for our therapeutic.
And there's not a standard board rate across therapeutic agencies. You need to talk to that specific therapeutic agency, because all therapeutic foster care licensing agencies are private.
Yes.
There's not a public DSS option.
Right. And it does change also based on the needs of the child. So each level of child would be a different level of reimbursement.
So we were talking about kind of some of the additional things that you might receive as a therapeutic foster parent, and SkyApp in particular, and obviously our other agencies offer things as well. But what are the support or resources provided to therapeutic families to help them meet the additional needs of the children?
Sure. So we mentioned a little bit earlier about the treatment coordinator. And so that's really the biggest difference in therapeutic foster care, is that when a child is assigned to one of our homes, they're assigned a treatment coordinator that comes out once a month. And a lot of times the treatment coordinators, when their schedule, which most of the time is available, they will attend doctor's appointments, therapy appointments, school meetings, foster care review boards alongside the foster parent, just to make sure that everything is going as planned. And they'll also be the one that you can call late at night or on the weekends. We have a 24-hour support.
With these children with extra needs, if there's an emergency, Is there that extra kind of level?
There is. We have a 24/7 support line, so that you can always get in touch with someone at our office. There's always somebody on call, because there are crises that occur sometimes, and so we absolutely have that in place. And so having your treatment coordinator and an agency that'll walk beside you is so different, because you don't feel like you have to do it alone. So if you have no experience with any type of special needs child, any type of therapies, finding the right services in the community, it's okay. That's what the treatment coordinator is for.
Right, right. Well, and thank you. Stacey is sharing a little bit more about her experience, saying that they were nervous at first, but with the support and the training, really being willing to reach out and ask for help when you need it. That's definitely, because because we don't feel like the expert, and so having someone to go to, that's definitely helpful. So, and she mentioned the training, and we've talked a little bit about it. Tell us, how is maybe the pre-licensing training different from standard foster care, and then the continual training? Is that all through SkyApp? Is that through various organizations? How does that work?
So the pre-service training is offered in-house in SkyApp. And one of the reasons is we just like to meet with our families, walk with them through the whole process from day one till they're licensed. And so we have a very different training, kind of in-depth, to talk more about therapeutic foster care and what the requirements are going to be. Most of the training in the pre-service is pretty similar. I did mention we work with Medicaid, so Medicaid does have some requirements as well. Just talking about kind of some specifics of therapeutic foster care. And so CPR is something that's required, and I believe that's required now for regular foster parents. I'm not sure, but if not, but we offer it in-house. We offer it free here at SkyApp. So that's something that we do. So it's pretty similar, and then every year or every 2 years for your recertification, you have to do 16 hours a year. So it's pretty similar.
Very similar,
It's not that much more, because I know that's a hesitation for some families, is that, okay, so now I'm going to have this child who's going to have a little bit more needs, and then what's going to be required from the agency for me to continue to foster? But really, it kind of breaks down very similarly. And, when you have the support from the agency, it kind of offsets that a little bit. Yeah.
So, what makes you do this as a profession, and you do this in your personal life? What makes it worth it for you? Why? And maybe if you wouldn't mind sharing, like, how did you get to therapeutic foster care? What continues to make this meaningful?
So foster care for me has kind of become, as I've mentioned, it's my world completely. I have been interested in being a foster parent since I was 12. I know that sounds crazy. I wanted my mom to, and she wouldn't, so I said, I will when I'm older. My poor husband, right when we got married, it's like, okay, it's time now. So we began fostering, and 2 months after that, I was hired on by SkyApp to do licensing. And so very quickly, I began learning the foster care world at home and at work, all at the same time. And so we were licensed for about 2.5 years as regular foster parents. And then we had a child that was with us that was diagnosed with autism. And we just needed a little bit of extra support. And so we then transferred to therapeutic foster care. And so we've since been...
So your family changed your license from standard to therapeutic because then you were able to keep that child in your home and receive the extra support.
Yes, absolutely. And so it was absolutely the best option for us just to get that help. And then we haven't looked back since, because the support's been different. So, as far as my motivation and what keeps me going, because it can get tiring doing it at work and at home. It's very heavy, hearing the stories of the kids that come into care. Foster care isn't a light subject, right? So self-care is very important, but it keeps me motivated. The kids that we have now came to us a year ago who, they weren't able to trust. They had tantrums several times a day. I remember days just sitting out on my porch, just crying, going, how can I do this? And just by sticking with them and, having our treatment coordinator to call, which we did often after hours, Sorry, Kim. But yes, we called her. But just sticking it with them, getting them into weekly therapy and seeing that difference. And not that we don't see that trauma and we don't see that grief at home still, but now they let us in and they let us help them. And they, they're a part of our family and they're happy to be a part of our family. And just to see that progression, and all we did is just stick with them. And we just did what we thought was best. And so that's what motivates me, is that, we can't help every child in the community and we need other homes that can help us in that. Right. And so that's what fuels me, it's just to see it every day.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us. If you have more questions, please feel free. Hey, Martha. If you guys have more questions, feel free to leave them here. And then Kim, would you maybe be willing to come back and answer some of their questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we will definitely get you connected to Kim if you have questions. But thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for sharing about therapeutic foster care.
Absolutely.
Really quickly, SkyUp is just one of many therapeutic licensing agencies. You can find those, the licensing agencies for both standard and therapeutic, on our website. You can click on your county and see what's available. But if they wanted to get in touch with you, maybe to ask you questions or to learn more about getting licensed through SkyUp, can you tell them maybe just really quickly where they can go?
Yeah, so you can go to skyup.com. There is a place there to put an online inquiry if you want some more information. You can also call our office here. It's 864-676-0210.
And like you said, this is the Greenville office, but they have offices all over the state.
We have 5 offices throughout the state, so there are local offices throughout, so wherever you're watching from.
Great. Well, thank you so much. All right, everybody, we'll see you next week. Bye.